name's Stewart Walker. I come from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a techno producer. I've been making techno music for about 15 years and playing live for about the same amount of time. I moved to Berlin 8 years ago because I wanted to have access to a little bit more freedom than what you have in the US. Less police invasions of parties and the ability to walk down the street drinking a beer, for example. Like a nice lifestyle in Berlin. No, I really like living in Europe because it's so easy to travel to other countries, and with a 1-hour plane flight I can be in Finland or south of France. And so I really like this kind of cultural exploration. I think that's a really big question about the music industry in general. What I'm kind of focusing on right now is that musicians are less producers of music than producers of culture, and the best example is some modern pop stars who are more popular for the way they dress or the things that they say than for the music which they make. And I feel like the idea of a musician making music is kind of not a cliche, but a little bit old-fashioned now. And so I feel like what I like the most about music is the music itself, rather than all of the culture and social movements around it. And so what I find is that in order to stay relevant, you have to choose to make less music and make more blog posts or tweets on Twitter or something like that. I find it difficult to keep focus on what the original goal was of just recording sounds. I wouldn't say that I'm against them. I think that they're great. They're fun. They're a really big waste of time. But I enjoy that. It's better than television because it's more direct and it's more controlled, so you're mostly focusing on what your friends are interested in, and that's a good way to discover new culture. I just think that it's really difficult to get deep into something these days, whether that's deep into production or deep into an idea or maybe a moment in history. And so instead we end up with a very broad but shallow knowledge about the world. And the difference is maybe comparing today's music scene with the music scene of maybe 15 years ago or 30 years ago, is that everything is very meta these days. And so it's not just the act of being a musician, but kind of watching yourself being a musician in the public sphere. Whereas before you might spend time learning scales on guitar so that you can solo in a particular scale, and you could spend months, years, decades learning this craft. I feel like the skill of making music is no longer as necessary as the presentation. So, for example, the artists who do really well right now, I think, are artists who create the best public profile, rather than the artists who are spending the most time on their music. But again, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. It's just the era that we live in, and I would rather adapt to the era than just sit at home and complain about it. The advantages and the disadvantages are the same thing, because let's say one advantage of using a computer for production is that you have access to 1,000 different synthesizer sounds simultaneously. So that's an advantage, because before, when I was making music and I didn't have a computer for this, I had to buy a new synthesizer for every sound I wanted in a composition. And so not only did that cost a lot of money, but it also took a lot of learning about how to bring so many different synthesizers into a room, plug them into a mixer, and get a good sound out of all of this hardware. And now it's nice that I can do so much within the computer, but it's also everybody has the same access now, and so maybe it's a little bit easier to create a good sound now, because when you buy software from Native Instruments, for example, you get the same preset sounds that everybody else was using before, and that means that you have good sounds, but everybody else has good sounds too, so that the general level of quality is increasing, but the general level of creativity might not be increasing at the same rate. I don't really care. I don't really observe trends, because I know that trends come... I've seen a lot of trends come and go at this point, and it's really... The music is usually the same. It's just like a different presentation of the music. but the way the drum machines that they use and the sounds that they use are not so different to make it a new trend or a new genre for me. It's more of a new fashion and a new sense of identity. So I guess I don't worry about trends, and I don't really. I try to think about what I want the most as an artist rather than what the market wants from me, because I'm still making music for myself more than anybody else, I guess. I think the best way to make money, the realization that I'm kind of coming to now is that the best way to make money is not to make music at all, but to be a DJ. And to spend all of your time, Monday through Friday, when you're not playing, on communicating and building your brand. If you're spending time in the studio, then you're not talking to people, you're not spreading the word. And so I think that you have to choose, as always in the music industry, you have to choose an artistic pathway or a commercial pathway. And I think that the artistic pathway is kind of going in the direction where you better make music because you love making music, because otherwise you're not going to make money from it. This has worked traditionally in the rock world, where you can have a manager who will make 15% off of your income, and the manager is controlling your tours and your record deals and your publishing and building new business opportunities for you. The reason that doesn't work so well in the electronic music industry is because the electronic music industry usually has a very short... people are involved for a very short period of time. So there's many people who are maybe 23 to 27 who want to be involved, but they don't know anything. And so you can try to build a team with these people, but it's very difficult to make that team work well. And at this point, my best success is coming from managing the things that I know how to do, rather than trying to build a team of people who have many other distractions or many other things to work on. And because I guess because I have more experience than most of the people that I'm working with at this point, and I'm not making enough money as an artist to have a manager who's going to be experienced, because there's no percentage for them to take. It began with working with distributors, maybe over the last five years, working with distributors who were going bankrupt. And so you were investing thousands of euros into a project, and then the records are selling, but then you don't get paid and you don't get the records back because the distributor has gone into a legal proceeding which says we have no money. And this has probably happened to 4 or 5 of the distributors who I've worked with in the past. And so a lot of the money which I did have would kind of disappeared because of this distribution scheme or distribution insolvency. And now I really love the idea of doing vinyl records again, for example, but I am always nervous about spending so much money on a product or on an industry which might not exist, or which might even be guaranteed to not exist in 6 months or a year. Right. This is a great place to film a horror film. Right. This is a great... So I've taken you to my cellar to show you my collection of vinyl from this label that I ran for 8 years called Persona Records. And when the distributor insolvency was finished, as I told you, a truck came to my house with a platform of 2,000 records that I then brought down to my basement, to their perhaps final resting place. I'll show you what I mean. This is a 25 record, and I have about probably 200 of these boxes. It's yeah, Persona 17 apparently. And yeah.
they just stay here, and I don't know if I should throw them away or save them until Persona gets hip and retro in 25 years. But still in perfect condition. I just don't have a market for them.